Hello everyone and welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is a series where I get to talk about, touch base about on various mythological beasts, beings, and the like, pulled from lore worldwide. And I always like to preface by saying that I'm not a linguist, so if I mispronounce anything, and I apologize in advance, I do try my best. And today brings us up to episode 70, so that's pretty cool. And so I wanted to talk about an entity that some of you may already be familiar with, but I have yet to touch base on it so far. And this is the Banshee from Irish folklore. And the Banshee is also known by other names. There's the Banshee or Banshee. But they're all pretty much the same kind of concept of this female spirit, sometimes associated with the Fae from Ireland, but this female spirit who is a herald of a death in the family of the listener. So the idea is if you hear the wailing, crying, or any other noises that the Banshee makes, someone within your family will soon pass on. And so it's not necessarily a welcome sound. And of course, the sounds vary depending on the description of the Banshee's vocalization. Again, going back over some screaming, crying, wailing, shrieking, keening, etc. So all those kind of unpleasant sounds of sorrow and mourning. They have a connection, an association with let me see how I pronounce these, tumuli. Well, there are specific mounds and geographical mounds that are scattered throughout Ireland and are known as Sid. So these are kind of like fairy mounds. And so there is an association with the Banshee and those mounds and where they're located. Again, tying it potentially into the realm of the Fae. But the Banshee themselves, again, all female, descriptions vary. Sometimes they're described with having long hair, having a gray cloak over a green dress. And those descriptions they usually are often seen with red eyes because they have been crying so much. Other times they're described as being dressed in white, having this pale, kind of almost ghastly appearance, and with flaming red hair. But again, I guess region by region, maybe even village by village, the descriptions of banshees do vary. Sometimes, in a few cases, they're described as being very tall. More often, they're on the shorter stature, ranging from a foot to 4 feet in height. They take the form a lot of times as older women or this crone. Yet, on occasion, there have been stories of banshees taking the form of some sweetly singing virgin of that family who had died young. So almost like being visited by a relative ghost, predicting that someone else in the family will soon pass on. They can be seen as shrouded or veiled, again, old or young. Sometimes when they're spotted, they're flying in front of the moon at night, almost giving it kind of almost like a witch association there. But in myth, they're, like I said, tied into either the Fae or the spirit realms, depending on how you want to categorize the Banshee. They are often, when they're associated with the Fae, referred to in this larger group called the Banshee, which are just pretty much the term for any female fairy entity. And interestingly enough, there are deviations of the Banshee in different areas. For example, in Scotland, the same kind of concept is called the Nighe. Think of like night, Nighe. But this concept probably came about in association with the mourning practices of Ireland during that time, because it was expected actually that you would have at least a woman, if not multiple women, keening, which is this, again, crying, wailing, pulling out the hair, creating this whole hullabaloo when someone dies. And, during the funeral process, you usually have someone keening. And some of these women were actually outsiders who were paid to do this. This was their occupation, to keen at someone else's funeral and make noise and wail and cry. And again, this visual an auditory expression of mourning and sorrow. And because that was such a important part of the funeral rites of Ireland, there may be a link between having actual people do that who are living entities versus this mythological female spirit called the Banshee, who is the precursor of a death in the family. So if you have any questions about this or anything else, post them in the comments below or message me on any of my social media. And until next time, Skull.